No Contact, the Dark Psychology of No Contact with Women. Old Stoic Wisdom. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou. Let's strip away the illusions. Women don't always return because of love. They don't magically wake up overwhelmed with regret. And they're not suddenly haunted by memories of your smile or your kindness. The truth? Many women come back for a reason far more strategic: control. When you go into true no contact, not pretending, not waiting by the phone, but completely detaching, something fundamental shifts in the dynamic. You stop chasing. You stop feeding her ego. You become unavailable, and that is psychological gold. She starts to wonder, why isn't he calling? Has he moved on? Did I lose my grip on him? And that fear, that unsettling void you leave behind, is where the pull begins. Because in many cases, she's not coming back for you. She's coming back for the feeling of power she lost. It's not your charm, your smile, or even your success that pulls her in. It's the emptiness your silence creates, the ego wound that no contact slices open. And here's the part most men miss. She'll test you. She might send a "Hey stranger" text. She might call you out of the blue just to hear how you sound. She might show up all smiles and nostalgia. But it's not always love. It's often reconnaissance. She wants to know if she still has you. And if you crumble, if you answer too fast, confess too much, or fall back into old emotional habits, you've handed the power back. The game resets. You're chasing. She's in control. Understand this. No contact isn't about winning her back. It's about reclaiming your dignity, your masculine frame, your mental clarity. It's the art of becoming untouchable, not out of spite, but out of strength. Old Stoics understood this well. Detachment is not about indifference. It's about power over self. When you master that, you're not just getting a woman back. You're deciding if she's even worthy to return to your world. 1. She misses the power she had over you. When a woman no longer has power over your emotions, your time, or your attention, something very primal shifts inside her. You see, many men don't realize that what often fuels a woman's emotional security in a relationship isn't just love. It's the sense of influence she feels over the man she's with. That influence can be subtle, like how often you text her, how quickly you reply, or how eager you are to please her. But it's real. When she knows she can pull your strings, she feels powerful. She knows she's the sun in your sky. But when you pull away and go silent, when you invoke the Stoic strategy of no contact, the entire dynamic is flipped upside down. Suddenly, she's no longer in control. And this doesn't just confuse her, it destabilizes her. She's now sitting in the void you used to fill, wondering if you've moved on, who you're talking to, and why her usual tactics don't work anymore. This is the dark psychology of no contact. It forces her to confront the truth that her influence is gone. She is no longer the queen of your emotional world. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's exactly what you're doing by going silent, taking your power back. And make no mistake, she will notice. At first, she may enjoy the space, mistaking it for a game she's winning. But as the silence grows, so does her uncertainty. She starts asking herself the questions she used to expect you to ask. Does he miss me? Is he thinking about me? Has he moved on? And just like that, the tables turn. But here's the kicker. If she reaches out, don't be fooled into thinking it's always about genuine emotion. Sometimes it's just her testing the waters to see if she can still control the temperature. She doesn't miss you. She misses the power she had over you. Take the real-life story of Mark and Sarah. Mark used to be all in, texting Sarah, planning dates, showing her constant affection. Sarah grew accustomed to it and stopped putting in effort. Mark chased, while Sarah leaned back. But then Mark stopped. He vanished from her inbox, her call log, her radar. At first, Sarah shrugged it off, thinking he'd come back like he always did. But days turned into weeks. Then came the silence. And in that silence, Sarah felt the power vacuum. When she finally reached out, it wasn't to say, I miss you. It was to check if she still had that invisible leash around his neck. That, my friend, is where the wisdom of Stoicism separates boys from men. The high-value Stoic man does not chase, he does not beg, he simply withdraws, because he understands that true power lies in what you choose not to react to. As Epictetus wisely said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And your emotional reactions to someone who disrespected your value, that lies completely in your control. So if you're going through this right now, if you're wondering whether to reach out, to explain, to clarify, don't. Embrace the silence. Let her feel the loss. Let her miss the emotional validation she once took for granted. And most importantly, use this time to rebuild yourself. Because this isn't just about her anymore. It's about becoming the kind of man who cannot be manipulated by affection, attention, or temporary validation. That's the Stoic edge. That's the dark psychology of no contact, not to hurt her, but to liberate yourself. What do you think about this strategy? Have you tried no contact before? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Your story might help another man find his strength. 2. You stop chasing and it drives her crazy. There's a hidden power that few men understand, yet those who do find themselves in total control of the emotional chessboard, and it begins the moment you stop chasing her. You see, many women are conditioned, consciously or unconsciously, to find validation in being pursued. Each call, each text, each compliment you gave her wasn't just a message. It was a signal that she held space in your world, that she was central to your emotional universe. But when you go silent, when you withdraw that energy, it sends a shockwave through the dynamic she thought was secure. You flip the script, and in doing so, you awaken a psychological tension that can be both disturbing and magnetic to her. She's no longer sure where she stands. That confusion, that's where your power begins to grow. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. Think about it. While you were constantly available, you were like background noise, always there, always comforting, but easily ignored. Now that you're gone, the silence becomes unbearable. That attention you used to give wasn't just affection, it was her emotional safety net. And when that net disappears, she starts to fall into uncertainty. That emotional vacuum you've created begins to echo in her mind, and the more it echoes, the more she realizes what she's missing. It's not just about ego, it's about human psychology. We often don't recognize the value of something until it's gone, and your withdrawal forces her to confront that loss in real time. Here's where Stoic wisdom comes into play. The Stoics taught that the man who masters himself becomes untouchable. When you stop chasing, you're not being petty. You're practicing emotional discipline. You're reclaiming your power. In modern life, this isn't about playing games. It's about shifting the balance of energy. When you stop pursuing, you're no longer the one on the defensive. You're not reacting, you're observing, you're calm, and you're in control. Suddenly, she is the one wondering, who is he chasing now? Has he moved on? Did I lose him for good? Those questions start to gnaw at her, creating a storm of insecurity she never saw coming. Think about the story of James and Emily. James, like many men, believed that consistent effort would win her heart. He called, texted, planned everything. He made her feel adored. But Emily, wrapped in the comfort of always being wanted, never truly reciprocated. She assumed James would always be there. Until one day, James simply stopped. No more texts, no more likes, no more sweet words. At first, Emily barely noticed. She thought it was a phase. But as days turned to weeks and her notifications stayed silent, anxiety set in. She started checking her phone, wondering what changed. Was he seeing someone else? Was she no longer special? That mystery ate away at her, and in a moment of vulnerability, she reached out, with a casual excuse, of course, just to feel that attention again. But for James, this wasn't a trick or a tactic. This was transformation. He had realized his worth wasn't tied to being constantly available. He understood the real value is never in the chase. It's in presence, restraint, and self-respect. And Emily, in that moment, saw it too. This is the core of the no-contact rule, not to manipulate, but to wake her up to the value of what she once overlooked. In today's world, where attention is cheap and instant gratification is everywhere, the man who withdraws his energy becomes a mystery. And mystery is magnetism. By stepping back, you reframe the entire story. You're no longer the man who needs her validation. You are the man she now craves to understand. Use this wisely. Don't chase. Let her feel the silence. Let her sit with the questions, and let that space work for you. Because in that quiet space, she will either realize your worth or make room for someone better to recognize it. 3. No contact makes her feel like she's losing control. When you go no contact, you don't just go silent, you disrupt her entire psychological framework. You break the pattern she's grown used to, the one that gave her certainty, the one that made her feel secure in her position over you. Control, for her, isn't about obvious domination. It's about knowing. Predictability, patterns. When you always text good morning, when you instantly reply, when she can predict your next move, she feels in charge, even if she doesn't say it out loud. It's the illusion of emotional control. And when you cut communication, that illusion burns to the ground. Suddenly, her emotional compass spins. She doesn't know where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The silence is loud. It forces her to ask herself questions she never had to ask before. Is he gone? Has he moved on? Did I push too far? Does he even care anymore? These questions aren't random. They are psychological chaos, unleashed by your silence. What you're doing isn't just pulling back. You're changing the rules of the entire game. She's not used to that. She's used to being the one who sets the tempo, who gets the last word, who decides when the door is open or shut. But now, the door has disappeared. You've become a mystery, and that, my brother, is power. As long as you were predictable, she never had to worry. You were the open book, the safety net, the emotional insurance. But the moment you went quiet, you became unpredictable. And in human psychology, unpredictability creates urgency. It activates desire. That's not manipulation. That's how the human mind works. As Robert Greene said in The Art of Seduction, absence increases respect and honor. When you're always present, you're taken for granted. But when you remove your presence, you create scarcity. And scarcity, my friend, is value. Now she's the one wondering. Now she's the one chasing. Because now the emotional scales have tipped. She's no longer in the driver's seat you are. That shift triggers not just emotional panic, but also ego disruption. She's not just wondering if you care, she's trying to figure out how she lost the grip. And that eats away at pride. Because here's the truth. No one likes to feel like they have lost control over someone who used to orbit around them. But the moment you stopped orbiting, you became your own planet. You became the sun. And let me tell you something real. When you step away in silence, you speak louder than any words ever could. You are saying, I no longer operate by your rules. I don't need validation. I'm not here to be controlled. I'm here to lead. That is Old Stoic wisdom in action. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Brother, the no-contact rule isn't just a strategy, it's a declaration that you no longer need to explain yourself. You don't need closure, you are the closure. And the irony? She doesn't want to chase, but she has to. Because the silence doesn't just leave a void. It tells her something terrifying. She's no longer the center of your world, and whether she admits it or not, she'll want that power back. She'll feel the pull to reconnect, just to reclaim that sense of control. But here's your job. Don't hand it back. Keep your frame. Stay solid. Stay unmoved. Because the man who can remain silent in chaos is the man who holds all the power. Comment to remember, silence is not weakness. It's the power to lead. 4. She can't handle being replaced. One of the most psychologically triggering reasons a woman comes back after you initiate no contact is rooted not in love, but in fear. Specifically, the fear of being replaced. As long as you're texting, checking in, or lurking in the shadows of her attention, she knows she still holds space in your world. But when that silence kicks in, when you disappear and go dark, something inside her begins to unravel. Suddenly, she's not just dealing with distance, she's dealing with the haunting possibility that someone else is now receiving the attention, the admiration, and the affection she once took for granted. This, for many women, is unbearable, and while she may tell herself and her friends that she's over it, that it's no big deal, or that she's already moved on, deep down a storm brews, one of doubt, of insecurity, and of emotional panic. The mere thought that you could move on so easily without her, that another woman could now be smiling at your texts or laughing at your jokes, becomes a blow to her ego, not just her heart. As Stoic wisdom teaches us, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. A truth from Epictetus that explains exactly why this fear can grow into obsession. It's not your actions, but her perception of being replaced that becomes the trigger. Women, like all people, desire to feel irreplaceable, to believe that their presence in someone's life is unique and unmatched. So when your silence suggests you filled that emotional space with someone new, it ignites something ancient within her, a competitive drive, a need to prove her worth again, a deep psychological urge to reclaim her place in your life. It's not always about wanting you back. Sometimes it's about needing to know she could still have you if she wanted. This is why she may suddenly reach out, react to an old post, or start showing up in subtle ways. She's checking if the door is still open, if her presence still matters, if she hasn't been replaced by someone better. And here's where your discipline becomes power. Is remain silent, remain composed, and remain grounded. The Stoic man does not chase validation. He lets others reveal themselves in the silence. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius once said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In this case, your best move is not to retaliate emotionally or to play mind games, but simply to live well, grow stronger, and let her face the reality that you are no longer dependent on her presence. So to all the men watching this, ask yourself, are you holding on out of genuine love, or are you afraid of letting go? Because the moment she realizes you're no longer afraid to lose her, she becomes afraid of losing you. 5. You were the one who was always available. Let's be brutally honest. One of the biggest mistakes a man can make in any relationship is being too available, too eager, too ready to drop everything the moment she snaps her fingers. You answer her texts instantly, cancel your plans just to spend time with her, and you make yourself emotionally and often physically accessible at all hours, as if her presence alone defines your value. At first glance, it might seem noble, even romantic, but in truth, it's a slow erosion of your own worth. What feels like devotion to you often registers as desperation to her. Because here's a cold, hard truth that many men ignore. Women do not deeply desire what they can get effortlessly, whenever they want. That kind of accessibility, that endless emotional availability, strips away your mystery and the masculine tension that ignites true desire. When you're always there, always responding, always waiting for her next move, you begin to telegraph that you have no life, no purpose, and no direction beyond her orbit. And that image doesn't create attraction, it kills it. In modern life, where everyone is chasing something, dreams, careers, peace, power, a man who seems to chase only a woman signals that he's lost touch with his masculine core. And make no mistake, she will feel it. She might not say it out loud, but her subconscious reads your behavior like a book. This man is not the prize, he is the pursuer, the predictable one, the one who orbits rather than commands, and once she figures that out, she will test you, ignore you, even disrespect you, not out of cruelty, but because she's no longer magnetized by your presence. The ancient Stoics taught that a man must root himself in purpose above all things, that emotional clarity and inner self-control are the foundation of masculine strength. When your life becomes centered around her instead of your own mission, you lose that Stoic center, and with it, the very force that draws her in. So understand, this is not about being cold or playing manipulative games. It's about restoring balance and living a life that is full, rich, and independent. You need to be the man who has a full schedule, a vision, a passion, the kind of man who doesn't wait by the phone, but who makes the phone ring because he's too busy building, leading, and evolving. Once she sees that your life continues, and even thrives, without her constant presence, that's when her curiosity returns. That's when she feels the tension of your absence, the silence where once there was certainty. Suddenly, she's not the one being pursued. She's the one doing the wondering. She's not in control anymore. She's chasing. So stop making her your sun and placing yourself in her orbit. Stand firm in your world, build your life around your purpose, and watch how the dynamic shifts. Because the man who is hard to reach is the man who becomes unforgettable. If this message spoke to your heart today, leave a comment about faith. I am a high-value man. 6. She hates silence. It reveals her feelings. That's your silent win. Silence is not emptiness. It's a weapon, a mirror, a test, and a revelation all at once. When you go no contact, you don't just walk away, you create a psychological void that she can't ignore. Your silence echoes louder than any text, any argument, any explanation. And in that echo, she starts to hear something terrifying, her own feelings. You see, when a woman no longer hears from you, she doesn't just wonder where you are, she wonders where she stands. Because women, especially those used to attention, validation, and control, depend heavily on emotional feedback to gauge their importance in a man's life. When that feedback is gone, even the most confident woman becomes uncertain. She begins to spiral. Her mind starts racing. Why hasn't he called? Has he replaced me? Why does his silence bother me this much? These aren't just passing thoughts. They become obsessions. That's the dark psychology of silence. It forces introspection. And introspection for her reveals something she wasn't ready to admit. She cared more than she ever said out loud. That realization crushes her ego. While you were chasing, she was relaxed, smug, in control. But now, the tables have turned. You're not begging, you're not explaining, you're not reacting, you're gone. And in your absence, she faces the truth she tried to hide from herself. It's not just missing you. It's realizing that the emotional upper hand she thought she had was an illusion. As the Stoics teach us, he who angers you conquers you. But when you are silent, when you don't react, you conquer her. Because silence forces her to battle her own emotions without your help, without your presence, without your permission. It is power. It is dominance. It is the ultimate psychological pressure. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't need to argue, beg, or chase. You just disappear. And she is left to wrestle with the one thing she can't control, her own heart. That's what breaks her. That's what shifts the dynamic. And that's when you know you've won. Not by force, not by manipulation, but by doing the one thing she never expected. Nothing. Comment below. My silence reveals the truth. If this hit home, like the video, subscribe for more commanding Stoic wisdom, and drop that comment if you're ready to take your power back without saying a word. 7. Women love the chase but hate losing it. Women love the chase, not because they're playing games, but because the pursuit itself awakens emotion, excitement, and curiosity. The chase creates a dynamic tension, a spark that makes her feel alive, intrigued, and drawn in. But here's what most men completely overlook. While she may enjoy the thrill of being pursued, what she truly hates is realizing the chase is over, especially when it ends, because you stopped chasing. Many men mistakenly believe that once they've won her attention or affection, the mission is accomplished, the game is complete, and now comfort can take over. But that mindset slowly drains the attraction dry. You see, it was never just about being caught. It was about feeling pursued with purpose. And once the thrill fades, so does her emotional investment. In truth, women want to feel like they're still worth the effort, still a mystery, still valuable enough for you to work for, even after you've won them. When you pull back and focus on your own path, your own mission, and stop revolving your world around her, she starts to feel something unexpected, a sense of loss. And this is powerful. As the Stoics would say, he who is brave is free. And when you live from your own center, when you stop clinging, stop over-pursuing and embody calm strength, you trigger something far deeper than momentary attraction. You trigger respect. Women instinctively know that a man who has purpose beyond them is a man who cannot be manipulated by attention or emotion. That's why no contact works. It repositions the balance of power, replacing obsession with clarity and desperation with dignity. It doesn't mean playing games or pretending you don't care. It means living a life so full, so grounded, that her presence becomes a blessing, not a need. And here's the paradox. The more you prioritize yourself without neglecting her entirely, the more she feels like she's the one chasing you. Because deep down, what women fear most is not being pursued. It's realizing they've lost the ability to attract your attention. The moment she senses the chase is slipping away, her mind begins racing with questions. Why isn't he trying anymore? Has he moved on? Is someone else capturing his interest? That fear becomes the seed of obsession. So men, take this wisdom to heart. Maintain your mystery, protect your purpose, and never hand over your emotional center. Stay grounded in who you are. As Seneca wisely said, if you know not to which port you sail, no wind is favorable. Keep sailing toward your mission, not toward approval. And now I ask you, have you ever pulled back and seen her chase harder? Or have you given too much too soon and watched her vanish? Share your story in the comments. Your insight could help another man regain his strength today. And if you find today's content very interesting, please give me a word of encouragement by commenting "very interesting" in the comments section. That is a huge motivation for us. Thank you. 8. Your absence makes her realize you're not desperate. It may seem like pulling away would push her further from you, but in truth, your absence becomes a mirror that reflects your strength, your self-respect, and your inner stability, the very qualities that command respect and attraction. When you're always there, responding instantly, available day and night, it doesn't convey love or devotion the way you might believe. Instead, it begins to give off the scent of desperation, of a man who has nowhere else to be, nothing more pressing to do, and no greater mission in life than waiting on her next word. And the brutal truth is this: no one, especially a woman, is truly drawn to desperation. Desire does not live in places where everything is easy and predictable. It's ignited in distance, in silence, in the unknown. That's where mystery lives, and mystery fuels attraction. When you choose to step back, not as punishment, but as preservation of your own energy and dignity, she begins to notice the absence, and more importantly, the message behind it. It signals to her, loud and clear, that you are not dependent on her validation to feel like a man. Your time has weight, your attention has value, and your presence is no longer guaranteed. And suddenly, what was once taken for granted becomes something she starts to miss. She may not admit it out loud, but her thoughts will start wandering, replaying past moments, wondering why the energy shifted. And in that wondering, you've already shifted the dynamic. The ancient Stoics taught that the man who governs himself, who doesn't need to chase applause or affection to validate his worth, is the man who becomes unshakable. In today's world, where men are told to constantly show up, to always be available, it takes a different kind of courage to simply step back and let your absence speak for you. But that silence carries more power than 1,000 empty gestures ever could. It reminds her that you are whole, that you are a man with purpose, passion, and priorities that don't revolve around chasing anyone. And when you radiate that kind of independence, you don't chase attraction, you attract it. So don't be afraid to disappear for a while, to hold back your energy, and let her sit with the realization that you were never desperate. You were just done giving yourself to someone who didn't know what she had. 9. She comes back to test you, not because she misses you, but to see if you'll break. Understand this truth, and you'll never be played again. When a woman comes back after you've gone no contact, it's rarely about love. It's about control. She's not always returning because she regrets losing you or wants something real. More often, she's returning to test you, to poke the armor, to see if the old version of you, the one who chased, who begged, who bent, still exists. It's psychological warfare masked as innocent reconnection. A message, a "hey, how are you?" a random like on your photo. Don't be fooled. This is not affection. This is a test. She's trying to see if you'll fall back into the old pattern, if you'll resume the chase, if you'll give her back the control she quietly lost the moment you chose yourself. And here's where most men fail. They get excited. They take the bait. They respond too quickly. They go right back to overinvesting, hoping this time she's serious. But she's not. Not yet. This moment is about one thing: your strength, your discipline, your power. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you chase after being tested, you fail that mastery. You prove you're still seeking her validation. But if you hold the line, if you stay centered, calm, unmoved, you flip the test on her. You force her to confront a new reality. The man who once chased no longer plays her game. And that, my brother, is when the power shifts for good. In today's world, where attention is currency and emotional control is the battlefield, you must operate like a man who needs nothing, expects nothing, and moves with intention. The moment she sees you have a full life, with or without her, she starts to ask the question you've waited for all along. Did I lose a man who actually had it all? That's when respect grows. That's when attraction returns. That's when you win. Comment below, "I don't chase. I attract by standing still." If this truth just hit you like lightning, drop that line in the comments and subscribe now, because the man who masters emotional discipline becomes untouchable. Here's a truth many men find hard to accept, yet it's one of the most critical red flags in the realm of post-breakup psychology. When she comes back after you've gone silent, it's often not because of love, it's because of her ego. While she may still have fragments of emotional attachment, the driving force behind her sudden reappearance is rarely about wanting to build something real with you again. It's about validation. The moment you stop chasing, stop texting, stop orbiting around her like she's the sun in your sky, you disrupt a pattern that once made her feel powerful. She no longer feels like the prize, and that stings her pride. What you've done, without even realizing it, is activate a deep wound in her ego, the kind that whispers, "What if he no longer sees me as special?" That thought alone can send her spiraling into action, reaching out, testing you, trying to see if she still has the power to pull you back in. But understand this clearly. She isn't necessarily coming back because she wants a future with you. She's trying to see if she can still trigger a reaction, still interrupt your focus, still command your attention the way she once did. It's a psychological test, a power move dressed up as affection. And here's where Stoic wisdom comes in. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your job is not to emotionally flinch, not to fall into the old trap, not to confuse ego-driven contact with genuine love. Real love builds, ego love disrupts, and you must know the difference. The man who lives by Stoic principles understands that validation from others is never worth more than inner peace. So when she shows up again, asking for attention without offering change, see it for what it is, an ego craving your reaction, not your heart. Hold your line. Respect yourself. And if you've ever experienced this, when a woman returned but it felt hollow, more like a test than a reunion, share your story in the comments. You're not alone, and your insight could be the wake-up call another man desperately needs. If you found this message powerful, make sure to like, Share it with a man who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more timeless Stoic wisdom and modern masculine strength. We want to hear from you. Have you ever had a woman come back after you went silent? Drop your story below. Let's learn from each other. Comment to remember this truth. I choose strength over validation. Let the world know you're not chasing, you're rising. Thanks for watching, my friend. Remember this. She'll always come back when she knows she can't have you. That's how the game works. But the real question is this: will you let her back in? That's your power. That's your decision. Be the man who chooses, not the man who waits to be chosen. Stay calm, stay grounded, and never forget, the one who controls his emotions controls the outcome. Take the lesson, apply the wisdom, and live like a true Stoic, firm, focused, and free. This is the Stoic approach to life, simple, strong, and unshakable. Catch you in the next one.